Outbound interfaces are the lifeline between the new SAP S/4HANA Greenfield system and the outside world. Customers, vendors, logistics providers, and EDI partners still expect the same outbound messages, even if half of the SAP processes has changed during the SAP S/4HANA Greenfield transformation. And that creates a very practical problem. Functional consultants need to validate outbound documents themselves without waiting for an EDI provider, without waiting for the integration team, and without depending on the partner being available. That is exactly where Agentic Validations with INT4 Suite come in. And before we start, one practical reminder applies here as well. Whenever we work with realistic test data in INT4 Suite, we assume that INT4 Suite robotic crawler have already prepared the test case database. That preparation step is what gives us access to historical messages and makes this kind of validation possible. So let's do a demo. The first thing we need is the historical message database. As mentioned, we use INT4 Suite robotic crawlers to load hundreds or even thousands of real historical outbound messages, EDI or non-EDI, into the INT4 Suite, as explained in previous lessons. Once the data is prepared, the next step is to check whether the examples we need already exist in the database. And we can do that in a natural language. For example, we can ask, do you have any test cases for EDI validations? Or we can be more specific and ask for test cases for a particular partner ID, material, customer, or any other document pattern. The system will then return a few relevant examples. Once we open one of those examples, we can inspect the business data behind it. For example, materials, quantities, in this case, sold to party. Now, here comes the key part. Without interacting with the integration team and without interacting with the EDI partner, we can use that data to recreate a business document directly in SAP S/4HANA. So let's open SAP GUI and create the sales order. We enter the sold to party, the purchase order number, the relevant materials, quantities. And one important detail here is we deliberately enter a purchase order reference that we can later on use to find the newly generated outbound message and compare it to the historical one. Once this is done, we save the order and the order will now be sent out. What happened just now is very important. We created a new sales order in the SAP S/4HANA based on the data of a real historical outbound message. Now, we want to validate the outbound side. So the next step is to compare the message generated from this new sales order document with the historical outbound message from the database. And again, we can do it through the AI chatbot or any copilot. All we need to do is to tell the chatbot to change the order reference to the one that we have just created. Because of course, the new document number will be different from the historical one. Then we can run the comparison. If everything is working correctly, the system gives us a report that we can open. And that reports provide a very detailed comparison, in this case, for example, an EDIFACT comparison, between the historical test case and the outbound document generated from the new SAP S/4HANA order. And this is where the value becomes very clear. We can immediately see whether the outbound structure is still identical or whether something changed in the SAP configuration. For example, here we see that the quantities are different because we changed them on purpose. As a result, the weights are also different. But that is exactly the point. The functional consultant can now see the differences immediately, understand whether they are expected, and validate partner-facing outputs without waiting for external support. So instead of depending on EDI partners, providers, or even the integration team, the functional consultant can independently confirm that the sales order confirmation, delivery notification, or maybe invoice output is still correct. That makes the whole process much more decoupled, much faster, and much easier to repeat. And this is why this approach is especially valuable in SAP S/4HANA greenfield transformations. Internal processes may change, but the outside world still expects the same output document. With Agentic Validations in INT4 Suite, the functional consultant can prove that this is true on his own.